2.3 today. So 2.3 is going to talk about the device driver. Okay, so what is the device driver, and we are going to look at that in this chapter. Okay, I hope all of you can see the screen. Right, so device driver. So we are going to understand what is a device driver, and we are going to understand four main important points inside the device driver topic itself, which is first you have to understand the device manager itself, and the interface, then what's an API, and how driver kernel interface looks like. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand what is a device manager or device driver. Before we go to device driver, we first have to understand what is a device manager. If you look at the slides here, at the part where I've highlighted yellow here, you can see device manager is a software tool that is built into the Microsoft Windows operating system. It is used to manage and control the hardware devices connected to your PC. Okay, it is not a hardware itself. Okay, so basically what a device driver means, or device manager, first, it's a control panel, okay, applet. It's a software which is normally used in in Windows operating system to control and manage any hardware which is connected to the operating system or to the computer system. So basically, if your laptop is connected to your monitor, your mouse, your printer, any other hardware, your hard disk, your RAM, so all of these are devices. So in order for the operating system to control these devices, okay, so you need to have a device driver or device manager. All right. So this device manager or driver is to control and manage all of the devices which are connected to your computer system. Okay, it's not a hardware. It's basically a software, or some people call it an applet, as you can see in the slides here. So we say here, when a piece of hardware or device is not working and offending the hardware, is highlighted for the user to deal with. Meaning, if there is something wrong with one of your devices, these devices will be highlighted to the operating system, okay, by the computer software, by the computer system, saying that it's not working. Let's say suddenly your hard disk is not reading a certain file, so this will be highlighted back to the operating system. Okay. So for device, to understand more about device manager, first we need to understand the device driver and how do we enable or disable, and what is the purpose of a device manager is basically to tell Windows operating system to ignore any devices which is not working, to just ignore it for the time being, until when certain things are taken, until when certain issues have been handled, only then the device can be used again. So why do I keep mentioning Windows operating system? Does that mean that other operating system does not have a device manager? No. Other operating systems such as Unix or Linux has also a device manager, has also a device driver. However, since we have been using Windows most of our lives, so it's much more easier for me to explain to you about device driver using the Windows operating system. Okay, so basically Windows Manager was introduced in Windows 95 and later was added on with more functions in Windows 2000 until now Windows 11. So we have a much more stable device manager. So like I told you, to understand a device manager, first we have to understand what is a device driver. So basically a device driver is, for example, I provide you an example here. Okay, so let's say you have a new mouse. Okay, you have a new mouse. You want to use it in your when you plug the mouse into your computer, the operating system may not recognize the device or may not function correctly. To fix this problem, you can supply a device driver for the mouse. The manufacturer of the mouse typically provides a driver for the mouse on their website. You could visit their website, download the driver, install it in your computer. Once the driver is installed, the OS should recognize the mouse and allow you to use its full range of features, such as custom button mapping, sensitive adjustment, and macros. By supplying the device driver for your mouse, you have ensured that it is working properly with your computer and that you take full advantage of all the features that it has to offer. So basically, when you install or when you use a new device, in this example, I've given you the example of a mouse, you need to have a device driver. Some devices, you need to install it from the website. Some device drivers have already been installed by default in the operating system, but mostly these days it's already installed or it's just a mere plug and play. Other devices that you may have come across is, for example, when you buy a new printer. Okay, so what happens if you don't download this device driver for a new printer? So basically, you still can use the printer. Yes, the printer is still able to be used. However, certain additional functions of the printer may not be fully utilized. For example, let's say your printer allows you to scan, to photocopy, to print back, front and back. If you did not install this new device driver, then you may not use this additional function. You may only just print single-sided. You may only, you can't do any scanning, you can't do any photocopying, you can't do any print front and back, because these are additional functions which requires you to install or to have the new device driver. Okay, so some device drivers are already installed by default by the operating system. So when you just plug in your new device, it automatically recognizes your new device and it automatically installs it. However, some latest devices have not been installed inside the operating system, so you need to have a specific device driver, but this sometimes is available from the device website. For example, let's say I buy a Canon printer, so I just go to Canon website and look for the latest model on my printer and install the device driver. So by installing a new device driver for my Canon printer, I'm allowed to use the additional functions provided by the printer. For example, like I mentioned just now, printing both sides, scanning or photocopying and other things like that. If you do not install the device driver, yes, you are still able to print. However, you have no additional functions such as printing double-sided or doing scanning or photocopying. So in Windows operating system, the device driver or device manager is, okay, I'm sure all of you have seen this. You just go to your start button, type device manager, and you will see this interface. So what does this interface tell us? It's basically telling us that these are all the devices which are connected to our PC. Right up from the battery, right up until the USB port. These are the devices which are connected to our PC. So devices mean any hardware, okay? And the hardware which, the devices which are in yellow here means it's not to say it's not working. It has not been installed yet. Why? What do you mean by that? It's basically when you look at your PC on the sides, you can see a few USB ports. So some USB ports have been used. You have put in your mouse there, you have put in your printer there, or you may be using it to charge your phone, so that has been utilized. But some USB ports have not been utilized, so that's why you get a yellow symbol there. It means that this port has been recognized by the operating system. However, it's not being utilized just yet. All right. Okay. So in order for us to understand why do we need this device driver, we first need to understand, okay, how does this device driver work? Why do we actually need this device driver? Okay, can we just use the device driver? Can we just use the device without having a device driver? Yes, you can use any devices connected to your PC without installing the device driver. However, as I mentioned just now, by you not installing a new driver for the particular device, then you have limited your functions of the particular device. As I mentioned just now, if you buy a new printer, if you do not install the new device driver, then you can still print. However, you cannot have additional functions for your printer. Okay, let's say you buy a wireless printer. Okay, a wireless printer meaning you can print anywhere from a radius, but you have to install, or you have to start installing the device driver first, and then you have to start doing some configuration. Only then you can use the function of wireless printing. If you do not do any installation, and if you do not do any device driver updates, then yes, you still can use the printer. However, you cannot use the wireless function. You can only use a wired function. That means you have to have a cable from your personal computer to the printer in order for you to use it. Okay, so that is one reason. Another reason why we need this device driver is to match the speed between the CPU and the input-output devices. What does that mean? Okay, as I go on to the next slide, sometimes we have a very good PC. Let's say you have an i7 PC, that is a very fast PC, okay? But you have a very slow input-output device. Example, let's say we want to copy from an external hard disk, or let's say we want to copy from a small thumb drive, okay? So the thumb drive is also a device, and we want to copy from a thumb drive to this new laptop of ours, okay? And this new laptop is an i7, okay? However, the thumb drive is just a small thumb drive. So we say that the laptop or the computer system or the CPU is a very fast CPU. However, the input coming from, okay, the input coming from the thumb drive is very, very small. Okay, it's our low speed. Okay, it's our low speed. That is why we need a device driver. For example, here, when copying a large file from an external hard drive to your computer internal drive, the computer can buffer portions of the data in RAM before transferring it into the internal hard drive. Because the speed is low from the external hard disk, from the thumb drive, external hard disk, but when he copies to a higher end, faster internal hard drive, then the speed is mismatched. That means, for example, just imagine another example. You are downloading something from the internet. However, the internet speed is slow, but you have a fast speed, you have a very fast, a very good, a very high-end PC. So however you do it, however you do, the internet speed is not going to change. The internet speed is going to remain the same. However, the data coming in will come in very slow because of the mismatch. You have a high-end PC, but you have a slow internet connection. So you need a device driver for you to actually transfer the data coming in into the buffer of the device driver. Okay, and then from the buffer, you will download back to the internal RAM and so on and so forth. Why do you need this buffer? Because if the CPU waits for the data coming in, it's going to take time because the data coming in is very, very slow. Okay, so if the CPU waits for every data coming in, then it's wasting time. So what it does is it instructs the data coming in from a slow place to the buffer. Okay, you sit inside the buffer first, and then once the buffer is full, only then the CPU comes back, takes the data and put it inside the RAM and puts it inside the hard disk. Okay, that is why you need a device driver to actually facilitate the movement of or copying from one end to another end, from a low speed to a high speed. Okay. All right. So that's why it says this allows the CPU to continue processing other instructions while waiting for the slow input-output device to transfer the data. Okay, to transfer the data. For example, let's say if I go to my class now, okay, I tell you all, okay, all of you, please submit your assignments. Okay, so submitting assignments may take some time. Maybe you want to move the paper to the front of the class, so it takes some time. I don't have to wait for you to submit everyone. Okay, so I can just continue doing something else while you submit the assignment on my table. And once it's submitted, only then I take everything and process it. So the place where you put all the assignments, let's say it's in a box, so that place is called a buffer. And this buffer sits inside the device driver. Okay, so that is one of the main reasons why you need a device driver. Okay. All right. So device driver can also be used in a different format. It can also be used in a API format. So what's an API? We'll come to that later. API is something like a controller. As I told you just now, it's a specific function. Okay. Why do we install the device driver? Because we want to have specific functions. So what are these specific functions? For example, you buy a new printer. If you do not install the device driver, then you may not be able to use the functions of double-sided printing. You may not be able to use the function of scanning. You may not be able to use the function of photocopying. You may not be able to use the function of wireless printing. So these functions are called controllers of the device driver. Or now with the latest term, it's called an API. Okay, an API. However, an API is slightly different from a device controller, but it also means the same thing. Okay, so a device controller are specific commands. Okay, are specific functions that allow the user to use from that device. For example, you are able, when you install this device driver, you are able to use the function called start print, pause print, cancel print. Okay. If you do not install this, then you may not be able to use these specific commands. All right. So what's an API? An API stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay. It's a software. It's a function that allows you to use specific instructions from the device driver. Okay. Let's go into this example. All right. Let's look in the Google API down here. Imagine you are building a website. Okay, you are building a website, right? So now you're building a website for a local business. So you're building a website for a local company with the Google Maps API. You can embed an interactive map on the website to show the business location. Users can get directions to see nearby places and more. So you want to install, or you want to put in this particular website, you want to put the Google map inside it. So basically, you just use the function called Google Maps, the Google Maps API. It's a function, okay, by Google, and automatically you will get the Google map inside your website that you want to build. Another example is when you use Grab, for example. So when you use Grab application, okay, Grab is a mobile app. If you notice, the map which appears on Google, on Grab is similar to Google Maps. Okay, it's similar. Whatever Google Maps displays in their screen, the same map is also displaying in the Grab application. So basically, what we can say is the Grab application uses the Google Map API to display that particular map. Okay, so API is more of a web protocol that allows you to use whatever functions that is available by that particular software. So a device driver, on the other hand, okay, a device driver is more of a hardware. Okay, more of a hardware. When you install a hardware, you want to use the full facilities, you have to install that driver. Okay, you have to install that driver. Then you are able to use that particular device to the maximum. Okay. For example, let's say you have a scanner machine. Okay, So when you install or when you buy a new scanning machine and you plug it into your hardware PC, you need to install the specific driver for that scanning machine, or else you are not able to use whatever functions available provided by that particular device, which is scanning. Okay, maybe you are only able to scan one page. You cannot scan multiple pages, so you need to install that particular device driver. However, maybe you are not familiar in the installing device driver. In these days, most operating systems has the latest device drivers already. So that's why when you buy a new device, sometimes you're not given the device driver. Okay, but sometimes as you go along, let's say you don't install anything, as you go along using your device, then you get a message, please install the new driver, for example. So you just install. Okay, those are additional functions provided by the device. So sometimes that also happens. Okay, so in a software, in the top picture over here where I say include Windows.h here, then you have an application, an API, and operating system. So this is a software, okay, a device driver as well. So what it means is, why do I put the hashtag include Windows.h? This means whatever functions or whatever information provided by the Windows.h file is able to use by this particular application. Okay, so in this Windows.h file, this is where all the device driver sits, or we can call all the API sits here. Okay, so in using an API, there are two methods of how users can use the API or can view the API. One is we use the interface, okay, the interface, or another one we use it from, the interface is the one below here, the interface between a driver and the operating system. Another one, we can also use it through command prompt. You just go into your command prompt, you type in dev mg mt.msc, and the device driver opens as well. Okay, so these are also two ways of how users can use the device driver interface, right? The interface between a device driver and the operating system kernel, I will explain to you in the next slide. Okay, let's look at this example out here. Example, web API. Okay, so now we have the web version. Okay, those days we only have the device driver hardware version. Now we have the web version, like how I explained to you about the Google Maps API. Imagine you want to build a weather application. Okay, so you want to build a weather application. Either it's a web-based or either it's a mobile app. So you want to build something, a mobile app or a website that displays the weather forecast. But you don't have resources to collect and maintain the weather data from every location. So it's impossible for you to get this information. Okay. However, you know this data is available already on the website. So you just want to extract this information. What do I mean by that? There's so many other websites available that already provide you with a weather forecast. So you just want to extract this information and put it in your particular website. So we have here, instead, you can use a weather API to get this information. So you can get a weather API. So basically what it means is API provider, where the weather services that collects and updates weather information regularly. These services exposes a web API allowing developers to access their weather data. That means when you are creating, in this example, if you are creating a website and you need information from weather, okay, so you can just access this web API weather and you can get those informations available to you. Another example is, let's say you are creating a simple website about yourself, your name, your address. You just want to create a simple website to promote yourself. Okay, and one part of the website information that you want to highlight is you want to highlight the prayer time according to, let's say, Perak, for example. So you want people to, when they come to your website, they're able to see your profile, your information, and they're also able to see the prayer time in Perak. So that prayer time information is already available in a web API format. So you just have to get where is this format located, and you specify the commands, and automatically when people open your website, they are able to see this information. Okay, they are able to see this information. So how is web API or API itself similar to a device driver? So basically, a device driver is more of a hardware. Okay, because you install a device, then you need a device driver. However, a web API is similar to a device driver. However, there is no devices, but we are talking about more software. Okay, more software. A device driver is hardware because you want to be able to use the functions of all the printers. So you install a specific device driver for you to be able to use all the functions provided by the specific printer. Okay, hardware. But if you want a software information, for example, we want to semayang, we want to have the weather forecast, we want to get all those information about stock exchange. So these informations are available through the use of API. So API allows you to use the functions provided by another set of people. Okay, another set of API, for example. Okay, let's say you are doing a website to accept payment, credit card payment. So first you have to check the credit card, is it valid? Is it a Visa? Is it a Master? So these are all very technical issues. However, you can just take the web API of credit card checking and just use it. It's already a function available on the website, on a API. You just call that API and install it in your web page. So automatically the function to check your credit card is already done by the web API. So that is the difference between an API and a device driver. Okay, so the device manager itself. Okay, the device manager. What is a device manager? Device manager looks like this. This one. Okay, so this screen is called a device manager. So what does that mean? It's a centralized hub for managing and troubleshooting various devices connected to the computer. Okay, this is a device driver. So it's a big interface where you can see all the devices which are connected to your PC. Okay, another issue that we need to understand. So these are the functions. These are functions available by a API. Functions are, if you look at device driver, functions such as you want to print double-sided, you want to scan, you want to photocopy. These are additional functions. So for a device API software, these are the additional functions. Open, close functions, write, you want to write to a certain function. So these are functions available. Okay. And the last point today is we are talking about driver kernel interface. The driver kernel interface is something unique here. Okay, let's say you have a device driver, you have to install a device driver for the graphic card. So you buy a new graphic card, you install it on your PC, and you already have the device driver. Okay, fine, you already have a device driver. So what does this device driver of a graphic card gives you? It gives you better resolution. Okay, a more clearer resolution. If you do not install the graphic card, yes, your PC will still be fine, but you do not have a good resolution. Okay, very simple. So you install a new graphic card. So now your graphics is much more better. Your resolution is better. Okay, you can play games more clearer and so on and so forth. Okay. However, let's say you want to change the resolution. So you want to make it higher than that. Okay, you have a good graphic card, the resolution is good, but you want to maybe increase the resolution to make it more clearer. Sometimes we only want better resolutions on certain program. For example, let's say some old people, when they open their WhatsApp, they want a better resolution because they cannot see only in WhatsApp. But if they are looking at Telegram, they are okay. If they're looking at a web page, they're okay. They like the small font. But if they're looking at their WhatsApp, they wanted a better resolution. Okay. So sometimes the changes in device drivers, it's not as simple as that. It's also playing with some registers. So it's it might be it might be it might cause some other issues. So that is why this is called the privileged instructions that the operating system must do. Okay, because sometimes we want to change the display resolution, so we only on a certain program, not overall program. For example, now I'm running on 2 screens, so my resolution has been broken into 2 screens. I want extended resolution, meaning one screen but in 2 different monitors, the same screen. I'm not duplicating. Duplicating is whatever I see here is also available in another monitor. But in this situation, I want my resolution to go bigger so that whatever I see here will be extended automatically to the next monitor. Okay. So for this specific function, then you need a device driver on a kernel level, because this is where it's a bit more tedious to do, and you need the operating system to actually go inside the hardware and change the resolution. Okay, so in the olden days, the device drivers, yes, you have to install it, you have to download it, and sometimes you have to even reformat your PC or something like that. But most drivers these days, you don't have to do that. It's basically a plug and play. Plug and play means you just plug in your new device and you're able to use 100% of the new functions available by the device. Or maybe at most you just need to reboot. I'm sure all of you know that. When you install something new, when you install any software, for example, any hardware, once you install yes until the end, please please reboot your PC for functions to take effect. So that is the latest design. Okay, the older design, when you install something new, sometimes you have to reformat the PC because of the structure. But nowadays, it's either you plug in, the devices are more to plug and play, or more to just rebooting your operating system. All right, so that is all for today. That is all covering chapter 2.3. I hope that all of you understand chapter 2.3. And if you have any questions, please just ask me in WhatsApp or just email me. And I'm so sorry that we couldn't get the link today, but everything is okay, should be fine. And I will see you next class. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.